the plan for this evening. We're making sunflowers because sunflowers are our theme for the protest on Monday, August 24th, rain date August 25th. And we've chosen sunflowers because we want to celebrate the wonder and magic and great science of solar energy. And what on the planet Earth benefits from the sun more than the sunflower? Not much. And sunflowers have a long tradition in the history of art. So for starters, I'm going to show you some images of sunflowers made by other artists for inspiration. We're going to talk briefly about how they look and the parts of sunflowers. And then I'm going to show you two different kinds of sunflowers that I've started creating. I haven't finished them yet because I wanted you to see the work in process. And you can decide either to work along with me or just watch me and do your sunflowers later. I, as an art teacher with many, many years of experience, I think you'll be more successful if you just watch and listen tonight, learn what materials you're going to need, and then when you have more time and possibly more space where you can set up an area where you can get messy, you can make your sunflowers then. Any questions so far? Awesome. So now I'm going to try and share the screen. It's not happening for me. Ah, here we go. And first, we're going to look at one of the most famous sunflower pictures ever. It is, oh, actually no, but we can look at this first. This is actually a modern interpretation of Vincent van Gogh's, one of his paintings of sunflowers. And I've chosen this one because of the incredibly bright colors and because you can get a closer look at the shapes on the parts of the flower. You can see my cursor, right? Yes. Can you see me pointing at things with my cursor?
No.
Yes.
No.
Here it is on the side. Now, whoops, suddenly the cursor's gone. Now it's a cross. I don't know what happened.
Oh, I have the cross thing, yeah.
Okay, you can see that, good. Notice, first of all, the shape of the petals. They are long and pointy. And I'm going to talk about whether or not we want to use that shape when I start doing our demo. But there are different species of sunflower. Notice this one down here is very different. The petals are shorter and rounder. Sunflowers also come in different colors. The ones I'm going to show you tonight that I've made are yellow, but I do love these orange ones. Also, one of the parts of the sunflower that I find most interesting is the central part. We usually think of this as being black, but if you look at a real sunflower on closer observation, it's really kind of a brownish green. The color in this painting is not true to life. It is an abstraction. Let's see if I can locate now. Whoops. What did I do? I seem to have lost the picture. Yikes. Can you see me?
Yes.
I can see you.
I can't see you. All right, give me a second. There are a few people here, Sam, who are saying they can't join the meeting.
Who is that?
I don't know. There are a few. I don't know. This is not from our group. I'm going to try. Yeah, I seem to have lost my picture. Any suggestions? Should I log out and log in again?
You can try that. Is your screen brightness all the way up?
Yeah, no, I clicked out somehow.
So your screen is black?
No, I have a picture that says when system dialog prompts, click open Zoom us.
Okay, I think your video might be open in another tab, or it might be minimized.
So let's see if I minimize. Okay, good.
Great.
I can see you now. So now I want to try and find the actual real Van Gogh. I did have it open. Let's see. Here it is. So let's try share screen. And here it is. So here's the real Van Gogh painting. Again, you can see there are different types of sunflower. This one's fuller and fluffier with little tiny petals, and these have larger petals. The colors in this are truer to life. Notice the central portion is a brownish color. All right, we'll look at one more painting, and then I'm going to show you what we're going to make. No, wrong picture. I want this one. There we go. So this is a George O'Keeffe painting. It's useful to look at because it's got way more details in it. I don't know what these little things in the central part of the flower are called, but I think they may be the seeds. You notice they're quite small, and they are in the brown, and in the middle portion, green family. All right, any questions so far? Any thoughts or ideas about the paintings that we looked at that you want to share? Nothing? Okay. Have anybody of you been lucky enough to go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam? His paintings are so amazing, right, Paula?
I love it.
If you get a chance sometime in your life, it is one of the 10 greatest museums on earth. I recommend it highly. All right, so we're going to start. Here are the materials that I used to create the sunflowers that I made today. First of all, cardboard. And Jody, you said you're using pizza box cardboard. That should work well. It's a little thin, so it may be that your flower is going to be a little bit floppy, and you want to keep that in mind when you cut it out and choose the shapes that you want to use. So cardboard, Elmer's school glue, and you can buy it good in smaller sizes. You can buy it in the supermarket, the hardware store, Michael's. You can find it probably even in a CVS. You can find it everywhere. And then paint. This is very cheap Michael's paint called Artist, the brand is Artist Loft. It's kind of thin and transparent, so that's okay, but you might have to use 2 coats of this kind of paint. Any kind of poster paint should work really well for this project. Poster or tempera paint or acrylic. Any kind of water-based paint. You're gonna need scissors. You might need tape, depending on which kind of sunflower you want to make. Some Sharpies will be helpful, black. And I used a stapler. You can also use a hot glue gun. If you're lucky enough to have a hot glue gun, that will work as well. So here, now I'm going to show you the two types of flowers that I made. And then I'm going to demo both processes so that you can decide which you like better and which you want to do. I'm going to give you advice on which is easier and quicker to do as well, because time is of the essence at this point.
You know, Liz, I just have to interrupt. I love you much more. I like you much more than my art teacher in elementary school, because she said there's only one right way to do everything. And we had to sit there and copy it exactly as she had it. I love you, Liz. Thank you.
Now, quite frankly, she should have been fired. My philosophy of art is your way is the best way. Everyone's style is different. And it is your style, your individual style, that makes it art and not commercial graphic design, which is another form of art. But if you want to do fine art, you want to let the mistakes, the style, your personality shine through. And here's another wonderful quote. Pablo Picasso, you've all heard of him, right? Yes. He said, the only authentic art is children's art. So I want you to visit your inner child making these. And remember what our goal is. We're trying to create something for a protest. So I want you to think big, bold, and simple in your design. And keep it abstract. Let go of any desire to create a realistic looking sunflower. It's not going to work for a protest. It may be beautiful to look at, but that's not our goal. All right. The easy style of sunflower that I made, I don't know where to put it so you can see the whole thing. How's this? Is simply made with cardboard, cut out cardboard. I drew the shape. I'm going to show you how to do this in a moment. And I stapled the petals. If you look at the back, can you see the back? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. You can see how simple it was to make this. If you don't have a stapler, I'm going to show you how you can use the Elmer's glue. The second type of sunflower that I made, and I'm a little bit further along in the production of this one, I made with cardboard. Oh, and I forgot to mention, one of the tools you can use is newspaper. I made this with cardboard and paper mache. So this one takes longer to make, only because you need to let it dry in between painting and putting it together. But it's equally easy to make, it just takes longer. So if you look at it from the back, you can see it's covered with newspaper. And that's what I use to make the paper mache. The pluses, or the pros for doing this type of flower, is that this is sturdier. This will last forever. And who was the young person who's just started an environmental group? This kind of sunflower you can use over and over and over again. This one is a little more fragile. It's probably a one-off that you can use on Monday and possibly never again. All right, any questions?
How do you do the paper mache?
I'm going to show you. I'm going to demonstrate. Good question, Jody. I'm going to demonstrate this one first because it's the easiest, and then I'll talk about how to do this. All right, so we're going to move forward. Very simply, to do this kind of sunflower, which is quite effective, I think. Remember, simple, bold, abstract, and the brighter and bigger, the better. So the way I made this was to take a piece of cardboard. Any kind of cardboard will do, even from a packing box. It's a little thicker and more difficult to cut, but you can use box cardboard. Now it gets hard. You can't see what I'm doing next, but I will hold it up when I'm done. I'm taking a black Sharpie and I'm just making a circle on the cardboard. I'm making as big a circle as I possibly can to fill in the whole piece of cardboard. Now I'll hold it up to show you. Can you see?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then you cut it out. Now, I don't know if you noticed, what shape were the petals on my sunflower?
Triangles.
Triangles. And why did I use triangles and not long, slender, pointy shapes? Any ideas?
It's more stable.
More stable. The triangle is the strongest shape. Any of you who are engineers or architects probably know the three-sided triangle is the strongest shape on Earth. Buckminster Fuller created the geodesic dome just by using a lot of triangles. If you want to follow along and do this with me, go ahead, but in the interest of time, I think it's a lot faster if I just show you.
I want to see what Carissa's doing. Looks
Now
like.
I have my circle. It's not a perfect circle, who cares? But it's a circle and it's big. Then I took the pieces that I cut off, reduce, reuse, recycle, my environmental friends. And voila, I have some triangles. Then for me, I realized it's easier to just staple them to the circle. The only problem being sometimes the staple doesn't go all the way through, and on the back part, you may want to put tape so that you don't cut yourself where the staples go through. But if you want to use glue, Paula, can you hold up your bottle of Elmer's glue? You can just put a little bit of Elmer's, and this kind of dispenser is great because it's a squeeze top, but just put a little bit of Elmer's on the bottom edge and then place it wherever you want the petal to go. And I did that all the way around. I did it all the way around, and you can see I varied the size of my triangles depending on what pieces, scraps I had left over. And that's fine. It does not have to look realistic. You just want to create the impression of a sunflower. So any questions about this so far? finally, I painted it. Now here's something you may want to be aware of. You might want to put a coat of white first so that when you put the brighter yellow or orange paint, it really stands out. If you paint over the cardboard or the paper mache that I'm going to show you next, the yellow will be duller. It won't be so bright. I actually had a spray can of white primer and I sprayed the whole sunflower white before painting over it with yellow. And even then I did 2 coats of yellow acrylic to make it really a strong yellow. Yellow tends to be, I don't know why, what the scientific reason for it is, but it tends to be a very thin, transparent color, something in the manufacturing process, particularly if you're using not high quality acrylics. So you're probably going to have to do more than 1 coat. All right, are we ready to learn how to do paper mache?
Oh, ready, make a mess.
One of my favorite things on earth. You might want to have a pair of rubber gloves. It's very messy, and you want to wear old clothes or an apron when you're doing paper mache. Paper mache was invented by the ancient Egyptians. It's been around for eons. It is one of the strongest materials on earth. It's French, papier-mâché. If you translate into English, it means mashed up paper. You can even make paper mache in a blender. If you have an old blender that you're willing to sacrifice and use just for paper mache, it's a lot of fun to make it that way. But we're going to do it very simply today with shredded newspaper. When I do a large paper mache project, the first thing I do is just rip a lot of old newspaper. You want to create a whole pile of it before you begin, because once you start using the mixture of glue and water that I'm going to show you how to make next, your fingers are going to be a mess, and the paper is going to start sticking to your fingers or your gloves, and you're not going to be able to tear more paper. So you want to make like a small mountain of shredded newspaper. I love tearing paper. I'm not sure why. I love the sound of it. Okay, so these pieces are too big. You want to cut them relatively small, about the length of your hand, or a little bit smaller is good. Don't make them too small. When they're like this size, they're really too small and they're going to be difficult to manipulate and use. All right. So I'm going to go back because I haven't finished mine yet. But I should mention, on this one, I did not staple or glue the triangles on. What I did was take masking tape and just tape on both sides the triangle to the circle. So for example, I mean, this seems obvious, but it may help if I show you. Now I can't find the triangle I just cut. I'll cut another one. So you want to put a fair amount of tape, because paper mache, when you use it, it's wet and it will make the cardboard soggy. So So during the drying process, you want to make sure your triangles are really well attached. So I'm putting tape on the front and back. To make sure that triangle is really on there. So front and back also. You don't want it to flap like this. You want it to be tightly attached to the circle. All right, any questions about that so far? So I have my pile of shredded paper. Now I'm going to mix my paper mache. I'm going to take the Elmer's glue. And the recipe for paper mache Elmer's glue is really trial by error, but I usually recommend that you use at least 2 parts glue to a half a part water. You want to have more glue and less water. Can you see? I just have an old recycled delivery container, food delivery container. And I'm just going to pour the glue in. If you really love paper mache, I recommend you buy it by the gallon. I buy mine in the hardware store. It's a lot cheaper. And I'm just going to mix a tiny bit of water with my glue. So here you can see it's very thick glue on the bottom of the container. Just enough liquid to make it stirrable. And that's what I'm going to do next. This is why rubber gloves are great. So you want it to be a little fluid, not a little bit viscous, but a little bit runny as well. You take the shredded paper, the ripped paper, you dip it in the glue, and I recommend that you run it between your index finger and middle finger and get some of that excess glue off, so it's not dripping a lot. And then you just lay it on the cardboard and smooth it out. Smooth it flat with your fingers. You really should only have to do 1 layer of the paper mache, because when it dries, it is hard as rock. The Egyptians used it to help them make furniture. That's how hard it is. Lay it on wherever you want it to go and smooth it as flat as you can make it.
So Liz, where did the Egyptians get the Elmer's glue?
They did not use Elmer's glue. Good point, Jody. They probably made a mixture of flour, some kind of soft grain, and water, and they must have had some little bit of adhesive that they created in there too. But they would mash the paper up into fine particles and mix it with water, and that sometimes is enough. You can actually buy through a company called Dick Blick. It's an art supply company. You can already buy, and it comes in a gigantic box, already buy the mashed up paper. And it's a very fine, dusty powder.
So in the 70s, Liz, and 80s, we used to use oatmeal and water, and we used to put flyers up on the street poles in New York City, and it's hard as a rock. And we'd have one person being the lookout, and the other person putting the signs up on the street poles.
I can't believe our paths never crossed, Paul. I was probably right there near you.
You're right at the block.
Although, actually, the 70s, I was not in the United States. But in the 60s, that's what I was doing.
Yeah, 60s, yeah.
I went to college in Rutgers, and I spent my whole college, the 4 years I spent in Manhattan, not in New Brunswick. So,
That's where the galleries are.
yeah. But you can go online to find recipes for making flour and water paste. Jody, I don't know, you went to art school, right?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe a rabbit skin kind of a glue might have kind of helped to
Yeah.
give it the viscosity or whatever.
But this is quick, cheap, and easy, and you can get the materials right in your local hardware
I
store.
think I have them at home.
Or, at a drugstore. You can always buy Elmer's glue in the small size container. Paula, hold up your bottle again, please. Yeah.
I got it at the pharmacy.
So
And
you're gonna,
what does that cost? Like $1.80?
$2, yeah, less than $2.
Yeah. You can buy it in the supermarket too. Any Acme will have.
so you're gonna cover the front and back with one layer, and then you're gonna let it dry, and then you spray painted it with the yellow
No,
or
I
white.
spray painted it with the white primer, but you can use white acrylic paint because when you try to paint over the newspaper, it looks cool. It's quite beautiful, but it's not a bright yellow. And sometimes you can even put dry pieces of newspaper and spread the wet glue over the top. But I don't recommend that. It's better to dip the newspaper in the glue water mixture first.
Okay.
So on this one, you can see it's much bumpier than the other style. It has more of a texture, which I actually love.
Yeah.
And after I painted it yellow, I decided to work on the central part. And I didn't paint it smooth. I let the texture of the brush show, so it was more like the texture of the seeds in a real sunflower. And I also, this is great fun, I took the hard end of the handle, the tip of the brush, and while the paint was wet, I actually scratched lines into the wet paint to make it look more like the definition of the seeds. And if you've never drawn in wet paint before, it's awesome fun. Now, when I painted the whole flat part of the sunflower, I used a larger brush. But when I started doing the internal stuff here, I used a smaller brush for detail. And with paint, you only need 3 colors. The 3 primaries: red, yellow, and blue. And you can make any color on earth that you want. In fact, you see this kind of brownish, dark brownish color I did around the rim here. I mixed that with red and green. So I had already mixed the green on my palette, and I added red, and it made brown. So you can have fun mixing colors with this sunflower project as well.
Can I just interrupt about this brown that you made?
Go for it.
Okay. When in the 70s and 80s, when we were teaching, we were not usually able to order brown paint. And many teachers
Wasn't
have
manufactured.
their children painting pretty pictures, and the children painted their faces white no matter what color their skin was. And
That's
so as an educator, it was important to teach teachers how to mix different types of brown, different shades or hues. I don't know what the right word is, but brown. And really, really important. I always taught my student teachers, you need to learn, because children will make what's their faces, whatever is available to them. If the paper's white, their faces are white. If the paper's yellow, their faces are yellow. So you have to really teach the teachers on,
yes.
to,
I wish I'd done my doctorate in that, because it's a whole nother long discussion. Here's an interesting piece of information. Crayola now makes multicultural paints in all the different skin colors known to humankind.
and crayons
And
too.
another interesting side note, boys tend to paint themselves darker than girls, which I never was able to figure out why, but I found it to be true in all my years of teaching. So a few last tips. If you opt to do the paper mache, it does take longer because you have to let the paper mache dry. But we've had such brilliant hot sun, it really only took me 2 days to make this. So if you want to make a sturdier paper mache sunflower, you can do it. You have enough time, but I would recommend you get to work on it tomorrow. If not tonight. You could cut out all the pieces tonight and be good to go tomorrow. And one last thing, I started outlining the petals of this one in black. Artists love to outline in black because it really emphasizes the shapes and it makes the other colors stand out more. I love black, it's my favorite color. Really useful. All right, I'm done. Any questions, any thoughts? Oh, sorry, last thing. How are you gonna carry this if you're marching? All you need is a dowel stick or an old broom handle, or if in the storm, some tree limbs fell down in your neighborhood, that's all you need. And you decide which side of your sunflower is the back and you just tape it to the back of the sunflower. It'll make it easy for you to carry. So obviously I haven't painted both sides, but I would recommend you do that as well. Doesn't matter which kind of flower you make, but you want to paint both sides because you want to attract attention from the back as well as the front while you're marching in the protest.
Thank you, Liz. Wow.
Oh, I hope everybody enjoyed. It's so much fun. I see there are things in the chat box, so let me take a minute to see if there are more questions. You're gonna have to see me up close and personal now. Oh, Ted, I wish I could have you for 5 minutes.
All right.
Everyone is an artist. It is the most basic thing to the human animal. The first thing people did was draw in the dirt. That's how they communicated. We're all artists. We're all dancers. I wish I could say we were all musicians.
Chance?
I'm gonna put this outside to dry.
Are there chants?
Yeah, there's going to be some chants. There,
Singers from the Meadowlands, from the other power plant, or do you have any new ones?
I don't know. I think we're probably going to discuss that on tomorrow's, I think we're meeting tomorrow. I'll send you the link.
I realize want to say one more thing. I like this flower just yellow, so you don't have to put the details in if you don't want to. This gives the idea of a sunflower, and I think it's great. I mean, you could even write "Don't Gas the Meadowlands" on here, or "Stop the NJ Transit Power Plant."
I was just gonna say, you might want to put a little short message on there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that would be cool.
that's great. Oh, Liz, thank you.
It was great fun.
Thanks, Liz.
Usually when I teach online, I have somebody filming me and doing a video. This was way more fun because I could interact with everyone.
Yeah. Well, I gotta go down and get my cardboard so I can start cutting my shapes out.
Yeah, I can work on it tonight.
While you're watching Biden make the speech of his life.
Well, we'll see.
Please.
All right,
Oh.
see
Okay.
you